We continue here with Westmoreland on the Gridiron. I'm Sean Myers, now joined by the head coach of the Mount Pleasant area Vikings, Jason Fazekas. And Coach, first off, congratulations. You get a victory last week against a rival in Southmoreland. I know every win counts the same in terms of the standings, but it feels like that one maybe counts a little bit more for the Vikings to finally knock off their rival after you guys came up short the last couple of years against them.
Yeah, well, sure it is. First of all, thanks for having me on tonight. But, yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right. It's another game, and we have to win, those kind of things. Yeah, I think we all knew it was going to be a special game, a very important game, given how close the schools are in the last couple of years. So, yeah, we feel real good about coming away with a victory that last week.
And unlike 2019 and 2018, when you played in week 0, this one means something in terms of the playoff seedings potentially, because you're now in the same conference once again as Southmoreland. Winning your first 2 games in Interstate Conference play, how important has that been?
Well, I mean, winning games is always important. And honestly, what happens with the playoffs and things like that, we'll deal with that when we get closer. But we know it's real important to get a good start, in conference play, and pulling out a couple tough victories. We definitely feel pretty good about it.
You mentioned a couple of tough victories. You defeated South Allegheny 21-14 and Southmoreland 13-10. So a couple of one-score games. Is there something to the ability for a team to win close games?
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, you always like to see. I know in the game last week, we had some pretty tough adversity, some, pretty tough situations there, the way the game was moving and everything. So, yeah, I think maybe it says a little bit about your team and the kind of kids you have, because I know last week I was certainly happy with the way the kids played. I thought their effort was outstanding, and, they found a way whenever things got really tight for us. So, yeah, maybe it does mean something. I think it's a good, sign of growth for the team, for the program.
Now, you got roughed up a little bit against Greater Latrobe in a 35-7 defeat, but in the 2 victories, it seems like the defense has really come through, allowing just 24 total points in those 2 wins. What have you seen on that side of the football that has been encouraging?
Well, I like the fact that we're playing good team defense, I think most of all. I think from the first level to our linebackers and secondary, I think we have some kids that are really playing good right now, really fitting into our scheme and doing what they're asked to do. It also makes it easy when you have good coaches over there taking care of things. So when you combine all that, I'm really not surprised. If the defensive is going to be the strength of our team, I'll take it every year, no question about it.
Talking to Jason Fazekas, the head coach of the Mount Pleasant area Vikings here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. While you love seeing great defense, I'm sure you've been pretty pleased with getting some timely offense. And everyone knows that the Vikings like to run the football, but it seems like your quarterback has maybe taken some steps towards a much better 2020 season than he had a year ago. That's Asher O'Connor. What have you seen from his growth now as a senior?
Well, like you said, we knew we had him coming back, and he played every game for us last year. So, I'm really not surprised. I was really counting on him playing solid for us. And, especially this past week, I really feel like he's really coming into his own. And like you said, yeah, running the football, it's kind of what we believe in here at the high school level. But I know last week he especially made a couple, 2, 3, 4 really good throws for us, real timely, running the ball a little bit. So I'm real happy with where he's at. The kid's worked really hard, and I think he's put himself in a strong situation here for the end of the season, coming down the stretch when we get into it.
Pete Billy has been a contributor in the running game for the past 3 years, and Aaron Alexson is a player that you circled preseason as maybe someone who would have a breakout year. What have you seen from those 2 kind of splitting the carries thus far?
Yeah, well, we still, we want to get it going a little bit more. I felt that last week was a good week of practice. I even feel better about this week of where we have them at and how we want to move the carries around and everything. So, yeah, I definitely think that Aaron Alexson is really good athletic kid. I think he still has a lot ahead of him. I'm really expecting him to do a great job. And, Pete Billy is proven there just a strong downhill runner. So, we think we got a good plan moving ahead. Hopefully we can get enough touches and get some blocking up front to give them the start.
You have all conference games the rest of the way. Next up, the York Cougars, and you have that matchup at home. When you look at York with a new coach, what do you see from the team on film?
You see a team there, they look like they're coached. I mean, you can tell that from watching the film. And the other thing that stands out is they got some athletes there, not just 1 or 2. They had a couple, 3, 4 kids that look really nice there. So I think it's going to be a big challenge to try to, hold back that athleticism that they have.
When you played them last year, it was somewhat of a shootout. Is that the type of game you think your team can still win, or do you like these lower scoring games like we saw last week against the Scotties?
Well, you know what, honestly, I mean, if we come out and we're going to win, whether it's low score or high score, really doesn't matter. The goal was always to try to score, more than the other team. So if we can do that, I'll take it any week.
Talking to Jason Fazekas here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. His Vikings 2-1 overall, 2-0 in Interstate Conference play in Class 3A. And the Interstate Conference, well, your conference in general looks a little bit different than a year ago with realignment. Some teams moving in, some teams leaving the conference. Brownsville, South Park, and as we mentioned, Southmoreland and South Allegheny amongst the new teams. So what have you thought so far of this new conference?
Well, like you said, some of the teams we're familiar with, some of them we're not. But I know right now, like having 2 games in at the conference level, I really thought both of those teams are really solid football teams, really tough teams. So again, I'm not going to be surprised that the conference is good. I think it really has that potential. And from the top to the bottom, I think overall it's going to be really tough. It's going to be real competitive. At the end of the season here.
I've talked to a number of coaches about the difficulties of this offseason, getting prepared for regular season games, and for the most part, very meaningful games right out of the gate. How have you handled that? How have the players handled going through this atypical offseason and jumping right into Interstate Conference play back a few weeks ago?
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, there were some times here where it was just very challenging. First off, I like to have everything scheduled, scripted out, and you might as well just throw all the calendars away this year because it changed all the time. And then you went through the roller coaster of we're going to play, then we're not going to play, and you're trying to keep the kids focused and keep them on track there. So, I think it's been a challenge, but I think what we just always try to do the whole way throughout this is, myself and all my other coaches, I mean, we just try to connect with the kids, keep their interest in, trying to keep them buying into our scheme. Whenever we had a chance and we had the kids with us, we tried to take advantage, to get some work done and make it productive. So, we're still managing it. It's certainly been a challenge, but overall, we're probably, doing okay as best we could under the circumstances.
With most districts having very limited capacity for games, how have you sort of interacted with the community since you're not necessarily seeing all of that support each and every Friday in the stands?
Well, I will say that the Friday nights, you can tell they're just a little bit different. Because everything that goes along with that, from the fans to the cheerleaders and the band, that's all part of making the Friday special. So, I think things hopefully are going to keep loosening up a little bit, and we can get back to a little bit normal here, and have that experience. But like I said earlier, given where we were at a few weeks ago, I think we're all pretty happy that we're even having a chance to play right now. And if we can get more people in now, we're certainly going to enjoy that a lot more as well.
And lastly, I saw that there was a pretty significant addition to the coaching staff recently. The man that you ultimately replaced as the head coach of Mount Pleasant, Bo Ruffner, back in the fold. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, that was something that wasn't planned. I had a guy on staff that had to resign, personal reasons, one of those kind of things. And, it's hard enough to find a good coach, in the off season, let alone in the middle of the stretch here. So a lot of us on staff had been with Bo for 9 years and, have a good professional and a personal relationship with him. So, that was the first call I made, reached out to him, and he was available. So we just kind of hit the ground running. I'm certainly going to take advantage of the fact that I have a good coach on staff. I mean, because like I said, it's hard to find good guys. So, he just slid right in just like it was, just like the old days.
Jason, thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope you have continued success the rest of this year.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
That is Jason Fazekas, the head coach of Mount Pleasant, as we continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron.